At 9:30 local time, a Ukrainian drone operator from Baltica crew pulls his goggles down in a concealed dugout near the Pokros front. Routine launch, steady hands, clean feed on a fiber-optic FPV, drone climbing east toward a helicopter corridor 8 kilometers away. Unknown to the crew, the Russian Zala surveillance drone, a fixed-wing aircraft that circles overhead for hours with a thermal camera, has already spotted their position. A mortar battery 2 clicks behind the line is computing a shot that will land in 90 seconds. The operator won't see it coming because he just went blind to the real world. The drone screamed east at 50 meters altitude. The operator's goggles fill with a crisp feed from the forward camera. Shattered tree lines and collapsed rooftops rolling past underneath. Behind the drone, the fiber-optic cable you see here pays out from a spool on its belly, 25 kilometers of glass thread unspooling from the ground like fishing line off a reel into dark water. Invisible the moment it leaves the drone. If you look here at what's strapped to the FPV, it doesn't look like a weapon that can bring down a helicopter. An RPG warhead. The cone-shaped charge from a rocket-propelled grenade. It's zip-tied to the frame with cable ties and electrical tape. The whole package, drone spool, warhead, camera, costs about $950 and looks like it. Your kid's science fair project has better build quality. 3 years ago, this was a racing drone for hobbyists. Now it's the cheapest guided munition on the planet, heading towards something that cost 17,000 times more. Battery is full. Heading is 0907 kilometers to the corridor. Without a warning, the first mortar round impacts 40 meters from the drone operator's position. The concussion punches through the ground hard enough to shake dust from the overhead cover. His goggles show only the drone camera feed. Scrubland, a bombed-out tree line, open sky. The second round lands closer, and the spotter grabs his shoulder because they have to move now. The drone operator stumbles out blind boots, catching on rubble he can't see. Hands locked on the control sticks. The spotter physically steers him across 30 meters of open ground toward a drainage culvert. A third round turns the dugout they just left into a crater. The drone holds, heading at 50 meters, steady and obvious to the chaos below. The person flying it sprints for cover without seeing where he's going. They reach the culvert as he drops to his knees, hands still on the sticks. The drone's still flying at 78% battery. If you look here at the cable trailing behind the drone, that thread is the entire reason this mission is still alive. The Pokros front is one of the heaviest jam stretches in the entire war. Russian jamming trucks wipe out nearly half of all radio-crawled drones before they reach a target. But this drone doesn't use radio. Its controls and video run through a glass fiber barely wider than 2 human hairs. Like a conversation through a tin can telephone, you can scream over a digital signal. You can't scream into a glass thread. But the cable comes at a cost. The spool weighs over 1 kilogram. Heavier airframe, slower airspeed, smaller warhead. Every gram matters when your entire aircraft weighs less than a house cat. A standard radio FPV carries 2.5 kilograms of warhead at 170 kilometers per hour. This one carries 1.5 at 120. That gap in speed and payload will become a serious problem in about 8 minutes. The mortar was a nuisance. What's hunting the drone itself is a whole different category of problem. The same Zalar that carried in the artillery has now cued something faster toward the drone itself. A shadow crosses the upper right of the camera feed, diving fast from the 5 o'clock position where the camera barely sees. The operator doesn't think he dives. The drone drops from 50 to 15 meters in 2 seconds, plunging below the tree line into the clutter of rubble and scrub. The cable catches something on the ground. Motor spike, spool tensions against the snag. It holds. There's a special lubricant on the fiber designed to keep the thread from sticking when it drags a cross jump. The thing that's chasing him overshoots high circles back and scans the rubble below. Nothing. Too small and too low against the brown-gray landscape to pick up again. It banks north to continue hunting among the hundreds of Ukrainian FPVs. The front produces every day, not knowing this particular drone is different from the rest. What just tried to ram the drone out of the sky? That's a Russian interceptor drone purpose-built to chase down and physically destroy Ukrainian FPVs. Fiber-optic drones defeated Russian jamming. So Russia built these instead. Fast drones with a small explosive charge flown by Russian operators who hunt Ukrainian drones the way a hawk hunts sparrows. The Interceptor does roughly 180 kilometers per hour versus the Ukrainian drones being 120. A dogfight between two aircraft that costs less than a used car, except one of them is dragging a 25 kilometers leash behind it. Russia's answer to a $1,000 problem was a slightly faster $1,000 problem. The operator exhales with his drone at 12 meters heading 090, threading between demolished walls at 110 kilometers per hour with 64% battery left flying below the tree line through a debris field. While someone mortars your launch position, it's the kind of thing your wife finds out about and you never hear the end of it. Back in the culvert, the spotter hears it before he sees it. The high-pitched whine of quad motors approaching from the east, and not the friendly kind. A Russian FPV, a standard radio-controlled hunter, is diving toward their position while the operator is still in the goggles, still on his knees, still flying toward a helicopter corridor 5 kilometers away, with no idea what's coming at him. The security man shoulders a 12-gauge shotgun and fires at the descending Russian FPV. The first shot misses and the drone jukes before coming around for a second pass. The second shot clips a motor arm and sends it spiraling into the dirt 12 meters from the culvert. Its detonation sprays mud and shrapnel across the position. The drone equivalent of your dog charging at a squirrel and running face first into the screen door? The operator didn't see any of that. He felt the concussion and heard the shotgun blast muffled through his goggles, flinched hard enough to jerk the stick and bank his drone 6 kilometers away before correcting back to heading 090 at 58% battery. FPV operators fly blind to the real world. Goggles covering their eyes, completely showing only the drone's camera feed. Imagine driving at highway speed, wearing a VR headset. Someone starts shooting at you, but you can't take it off because the car crashes if you do. That's why every crew has a third member most people forget exists. The security element, the operator flies, the spotter navigates, and the security man watches the sky with the only sensor that can't be jammed, his eyes. On a war front where drones hunt drones that hunt the people flying drones, somebody has to protect the person who can't protect himself. Battery at 58%. Feed quality degraded from the interceptor invasion, his position compromised, and a near-miss detonation still ringing in his ears. Any normal mission would abort right here. He keeps flying not because he's brave, but because his window took 6 weeks to build and it won't come back. If he pulls out now, the Ka-52s change their patterns tomorrow, and the corridor is gone forever. Every day he watched those helicopters fly. The same route was a day spent building a trap that only works once, and he isn't going to waste it. The drone clears the last line of shattered buildings and enters open ground, flat terrain with sparse grub. Russian Army aviation uses this landscape for low-level runs because the same feature that hide the helicopter also hide the approach. It's also the most dangerous stretch for a fiber-optic drone because this is where Russian wader drones hunt. The threat isn't in the air anymore. Russian fiber-optic wader drones sit along transit routes like this one, powered down in rubble, motionless, connected to their operators by the same kind of glass thread trailing behind the Ukrainian drone. They wait for hours. When a Ukrainian drone flies overhead, the Russian operator spools up the motors and launches straight into it from below. Point-blank ambush from 10 meters. No radar signal, no electronic signature, no warning. Russia's version of a landmine that chases you. You can't jam them because they're fiber optic. Same as the Ukrainian drone. You can't detect them electronically because they don't emit anything until they attack. The only thing that gives them away is the cable on the ground, a thread of glass barely visible against dirt and rubble. That's where Ukraine's newest trick comes in. The spotter pulls up a second feed on his tablet back in the culvert. A separate Ukrainian drone is running ahead of the FPV's flight path, carrying an optical scanner called Sunray. The scanner beam sweeps across a patch of rubble 400 meters ahead. Something glints. A hair-thin line running from a collapsed wall to a dark shape, sitting motionless in the scrub. The spotter calls it Wader drone bearing 085 400 meters. The scanner locks the beam onto the cable and holds while the fiber optic heats, softens, and snaps. On the Russian operator's screen, somewhere behind the line, the bead goes black. His ambush just went dark. He has no idea what happened to it. If you look here at how it works, think of it as a black light at a crime scene sweeping across the ground looking for something that shouldn't be there. When the beam catches a fiber optic cable, it locks on and pumps enough energy into the glass to heat it past its breaking point. The cable snaps, and the Russian drone on the other end loses its connection to its operator and stops being a threat. But this corridor is 8 kilometers of open ground, and the scanner found one. That doesn't mean it found all of them. He climbs to 40 meters with 51% battery and 17 kilometers of cable now unspooled behind the drone. If you look here at that cable counter, 17 of the 25 kilometers spool is already gone. The corridor is 8 kilometers from the launch point. The operator is at the end of his leash. If the helicopter turns out to be 500 meters farther down the corridor than predicted, the cable runs out and the mission ends with the aircraft dangling at the end of a glass thread like a dog that hit the end of its chain. Battery is one countdown and cable is another. They're both running down like your phone at a football game when you promised your wife you'd send pictures. The FPV pushes into the corridor at 40 meters. The scanner sweeps ahead, but the ground is littered with old cables, wire, and scrap metal. The system can't tell a fiber optic thread from telephone wire in this mess. Ambush country, and no way to know if the path is clear. Then the video feed flickers as a band of static rolls across the bottom third of the image for 2 full seconds before the picture comes back degraded with a faint shimmer in the lower frame. A Wader drone. The scanner missed, just spooled up, launched, and missed by what looks like a couple of meters. The near miss dragged across the fiber optic cable hard enough to distort the video feed. It revealed itself by attacking and failing, spent motor and nothing to show for it. The operator is still flying and the feed recovered, but his camera looks like a gas station security feed from 2004. And he's about to try to thread a needle through it. A needle doing 260 kilometers per hour. He scans the corridor through the degraded feed and sees nothing with 40% battery left. The helicopter should be here. 6 weeks of tracking say they should be here. Then the Mavic drone overhead picks up 2 heat signatures lifting from behind a rail line 4 kilometers to the southeast. The Mavic, a commercial quadcopter they're using as a scout, shows them heading northwest. Heading northwest along the corridor at roughly 260, flying at about 30 meters altitude. 2 Ka-52s, Alligator attack helicopters, coaxial rotors, 2-seat tandem cockpit, 10,800 kilograms of airframe, with titanium armor around the cockpit, and critical systems, the helicopter type that had been tearing through Ukrainian armor in this sector for weeks. The Ka-52 Alligator, Russia's premier attack helicopter. Maximum speed, 300 kilometers per hour. Combat radius, roughly 460 kilometers. About the distance from New York to Pittsburgh, crew of 2 sitting in tandem, behind tandem, and ceramic armor plates rated against 23 millimeters. Cannon fire, the ejection system blows the rotor blades off before firing the seats. The only production helicopter on Earth that does that. Price tag $16 million, exactly where they were supposed to be, and exactly when they were supposed to arrive. 6 weeks of patience and 90 seconds of survival have brought the operator to this single moment. Ka-52s operate in pairs at 30 to 50 meters altitude, using terrain to mask their approach. They launch Elmer precision-guided missiles from 18 to 15 kilometers away. Basically a TV camera strapped to a rocket, steered into Ukrainian armor from well beyond the range of man-pad, shoulder-fired missiles. The Ka-52s never has to fly close enough to get hit by one unless someone puts something in its path that doesn't need a shoulder-fired weapon to work. The trap is set. The first Ka-52 is 3.5 kilometers out and closing fast, giving the operator about 50 seconds to get into position. The Ka-52 does 260, and the drone maxes out at roughly 120 with cable drag. You can't chase a helicopter that has 140 clicks on you. This is an ambush from the flank, not a pursuit from behind. And the moment he sees the helicopter on the FPV camera to the moment it passes out of reach, the window is roughly 4 to 6 seconds. Imagine standing on a highway overpass, trying to drop a baseball into the sunroof of a car, doing 160 mph, except the baseball has to hit a specific seat. You're controlling it from 5 kilometers away through a fiber-optic cable while your ears are still ringing from a mortar strike. The first Ka-52 passes before the operator can even line up the shot, screaming through the corridor at treetop level with its rotor wash, bending the scrub below before disappearing northwest in seconds. The battery reached 44%. Inside that cockpit, the Ka-52 crew has no idea anything just happened. They've flown this corridor 100 times. The VTEP self-protection suite shows green across all 4 sensors. The EW umbrella electronic warfare jamming from ground-based trucks that turn the sky into white noise for enemy sensors covers their route. And this is a milk run. In shootout and back to base, what neither crew knows is that the corridor they've been using for weeks has been mapped in time. 3 guys in a drainage covert turn it into a trap with a racing drone and an RPG warhead held on with zip ties. 17 seconds later, the second Ka-52 appears on the recon field with the same heading and altitude offset, 200 meters south of the first helicopter's track. The operator turns southwest, cutting across the Ka-52's path at roughly 60 degrees with 38% battery left. On the degraded FPV feed, the helicopter materializes, coaxial rotors spinning in opposite directions, S-8 rocket pods visible on the wing stubs. The VTEP self-protection suite is green across every sensor, 64 flares loaded, 2 infrared countermeasured turrets online, $16 million worth of engineering, scanning for a threat, final stick correction, right down steady, and he drives the drone into the S-8 pod on the right wing stub. The camera feed goes white, then black. If you look here at what the detects never saw, the Ka-52 carries the L-370P2, one of the nastiest helicopter defense packages in the world. 4 ultraviolet sensors scanning for the UV bloom of a rocket motor, igniting 2 Durkheim turrets, blasting infrared energy at incoming missiles to blind their seekers. Russia claims the system defeated multiple simultaneous manpads, launches in Egyptian testing without a single missile connecting, but the VTEP is a bodyguard trained to stop bullets. And the FPV drone was a rock thrown from behind. No rocket motor, no UV balloon, no infrared seeker, nothing to jam, no heat-seeking warhead. Flares are decoration. Every sensor on that helicopter was scanning for a threat that doesn't exist at $950. On the Mavic's overhead feed, the secondaries took off. If you look here at what just happened, the drone's 1.5 kilograms warhead didn't take down a 10,800 kilograms helicopter wrapped in titanium armor. Each S-8 pod is packed with 80 millimeters unguided rockets loaded with their own fuel and explosives, and the drone's tiny warhead became the detonator for the helicopter's own weapons. You don't need a bigger hammer if you hit the dynamite. Fire blows out from the wing stub as the S-8 rockets detonate in a chain. The Ka-52 yaws hard right, shredding debris and trailing black smoke before dropping below the tree line into an uncontrolled emergency landing northwest of Nadivka. A smoke column punches into the morning air, visible for kilometers in every direction. A $950 drone just brought down a $16 million helicopter. The Mavic kept recording. Within seconds of the smoke column rising, the first Ka-52 broke its outbound heading and banked hard toward the crash site. Its flight path altitude changes and emergency frequency bursts were all captured by Ukrainian signals intelligence. The 6 weeks of corridor mapping hadn't just built one ambush. They had mapped the entire Russian Army aviation response for the proposed sector. The operator pulls off his goggles with his ears ringing and his hands still shaking. He sees the sky for the first time in 12 minutes. If you enjoyed this video, then watch this other video on the war in Ukraine. Bye for now.